So when, and I will emphasize, when all of the data is mapped, and I'm talking about the CDRs, we can get a really good idea. Hey, a phone traveled north for 10 miles and then it traveled east. The drive test data would actually allow us to replicate and recreate these tower handoffs that we're seeing to come up with that first theory to now we can say, in order to do this and hit these towers in the sequence that it did, it has to be driving on this highway. And then when it went east, it most likely turned onto this highway. So the drive test data helps us get very specific with what the CDRs mean.
As an investigator in performing an analysis work done in this case, when you have the CDRs, they're called detail records, that tell you where a phone's been, is that useful in directing your investigation to what other evidence might be out there, like videotapes?
I have to qualify my answer because I'm not sure if you're asking specifically for this case or in general. Yes, you map all of the data. And especially if you're going to justify 6 months worth of data on somebody's cell phone, you map every single connection that there is in those records. From what I have reviewed, the FBI mapped 6% of the data that came in. Mallory's testimony and what I've seen through here, he was up to about 18%. So by either standard, more than 80% on both accounts were never mapped or accounted for. And I'm not talking overall from every single day for 6 months. I'm talking about the time frames that are chosen. So for example, this time period that's represented here is where I'm getting the 18%.
And that's the 48 hours?
This is specifically from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the morning of the 13th, arguably the most critical time period of this entire investigation.
And now moving on to request 317, 322, 319. 320, 321, 323, 320, and 324. And then picking back up with 302. Those are all surveillance camera items that we've requested. We're asking the court to order Moscow Police Department as the custodian of these things in this case to do an inventory of what's there. You heard last week that Detective Mallory said, I don't have the videos, those aren't my responsibility. You heard today Detective Payne said it's Mallory and FBI agents. So we take Mallory out of the equation. He said, I didn't do it, I can't tell you where these videos are. I don't know who the FBI agents are. So first, I think the court ought to order that that be disclosed to me. The second offer was that I can go to the Moscow Police Department evidence room and go through hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of videotapes, and that's just not reasonable. These are videotapes that have been collected in the course of this investigation. You heard Detective Payne say that when he looked at cameras on South 95 and the other road, south of Moscow, on the date in question, and in conformance with what he alleged in his affidavit of probable cause to arrest Bryan, he looked at those videos and he didn't find a car. That screams stuff that's exculpatory to me. I need to know where these videos are. They were collected. The court can see that from the reports that we put in the packet of evidence. The court knows they've been collected, but nobody can tell me where they are. And I need to have I don't physically have time to go watch thousands of hours in Moscow Police Department and be efficient with the case. But if that's what I have to do, I guess I need the court to tell me that's what I have to do. I think you have the ability to order that there be an accounting of all of these videos. Keep in mind what we heard today was exculpatory. So there has to be a duty to categorize all of these videos and get that information to me. Go find these videos that other police officers turned over to Moscow Police Department that are in relevant areas. That's just critical, and that needs to happen. The rest of them, 335, 336, 337, 338, and 339, the state has indicated that We've been given everything there is and nothing else exists. This all has to do with vehicle identification, and we're talking about identifying a car in question from a video as being a 2011 to 13 Elantra. They say we have it all. So if we have it all, that's great. I just don't want any surprises. Again, Your Honor, and we think the court should order the things as we outline. They're material to the preparation of our defense. I would remind the court that relevance is the standard of whether it gets in front of the jury, but it's a different standard when we're talking about materiality. That was talked about in the Pendleton case, and I know the court's familiar with the Pendleton case. The court wrote about that in a previous order.
Yes.
So I'll leave it at things that we're seeking in these motions to compel are things that are outlined in the probable cause affidavit.